Hello everyone and welcome. We are streaming live from Watches and Wonders in Geneva and it's so great to be back here. Today, the topic of our IWC signature talk is the future of mobility. To discuss this in depth, I am very lucky to be joined by two experts, Matt Pearson and Brian Durants. Matt is the founder and CEO of Airspeeder, the first racing series for electric flying cars, and Brian is the Chief Technical Officer at Boom Supersonic, the company building the world's fastest and most sustainable supersonic airliner. Together, we're going to be delving into the significance of engineering and functional design, as well as learning more about sustainable airborne mobility. So thank you very much for both being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Right, so let's begin by talking about the Mojave Desert, which holds a special significance for aviation. The area is filled with military and civil aviation installations and is home to the US Navy's Top Gun program. It's also a place where many pioneers have written their names into aviation history. So it's no surprise that both Boom and Airspeeder are headed to Mojave. IWC have also just unveiled the new Top Gun chronographs in colored ceramics, and today I'm very happy to be wearing the Big Pilot watch, the Top Gun edition. This is the Mojave Desert version in sand-colored ceramic, and it's quite a beauty, I think you'll all agree. Specifically, this colorway has been inspired by the dry desert landscape of the China Lake in the western Mojave Desert, I'll have you know. So we've learned something there. So Brian, let's start with you, if I may. Tell us a bit about Boom Supersonic's experiences in this particular part of the world.
Well, in Mojave, Chuck Yeager and the Bell X-1 broke the sound barrier for the first time in 1947. So we thought it would be fitting for the Mojave Desert to play a key role in the return of commercial supersonic travel. We selected the Mojave Desert as a location to flight test XB-1, which is our supersonic demonstrator aircraft, and the predecessor to Overture, which is our flagship supersonic airliner. We utilized Mojave's high-altitude supersonic corridor to flight test XB-1. This is one of the few locations within the United States that you can fly supersonically over land. XB-1 will pave the way to mainstream supersonic travel and provide key technologies to support safe and sustainable supersonic flight.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you for that, Brian. And Matt, you know, Airspeeder just initiated its first racing series, the EXA, which is bound to appeal to fans, you know, of all motor racing, esports, UAV flying. For your first race on American soil, or rather, should I say, American airspace, is it true that you might be heading to the Mojave?
Absolutely. Mojave, for all these reasons, has a really significant place in all of our hearts. It's the place to do amazing things first and early. So absolutely, it's an important place for us to be racing, to show the future of mobility. We're all going to get flying cars. It's inevitable. It's not if, it's when. But we start with racing cars.
Nice. I'm here for it. So another shared value between IWC, Boom, Supersonic, and Airspeeder is the passion for engineering at the highest level. So whether it's building a supersonic passenger airliner, an electric flying car, or a high-precision mechanical wristwatch, none of this would be possible without the engineers pushing the boundaries of physics. And all three companies obviously are experts when it comes to advanced materials too. So Matt, can you enlighten us into the specifics behind what makes the Airspeeder such an exciting proposition?
Yeah, absolutely. It's first of all, we believe in sustainable mobility in aviation. So it's all electric, you know, so lithium batteries and carbon fiber, and not much else. You know, it's about really, really high-grade materials, getting every every ounce of performance out of the vehicles that we're building, and reducing weight. So
nice.
You know.
And obviously, Airspeeder is, you know, it's a new kind of initiative. So where have you drawn experts in their fields from, and for this to be part of this journey?
It's an interesting mix of motorsport and aviation. So our engineers are drawn from Ferrari, McLaren, Jaguar, and then Airbus, Boeing.
Interesting.
And that fusion is, they're very different worlds. So fusing that together in a motorsport in the sky is challenging, but we feel that generational development of vehicles is really important. So
Yeah.
you build it, you race it, you learn from it, and you build something new, and you iterate really, really fast. It's something that's not easy in aviation. So we wanted to do. That's why racing makes sense, to develop multiple generations of a vehicle very, very fast, fusing the best of motorsport and aviation engineering.
Awesome, thank you. And Brian, tell us more about how Boom Supersonic came about and what it stands for in terms of innovation and technical engineering, please.
Boom's ultimate vision is to make the world dramatically more accessible. We're founded upon the principles of speed, safety, and sustainability. Boom has assembled a unique team to bring to life our vision of mainstream supersonic travel. We have some of the best engineering talent from around the world, and we leverage that talent by addressing a wide range of technical challenges, usually focused around optimizing the efficiency of the aircraft design.
Okay, nice. And as many people might realize, I guess Boom Supersonic and Airspeeder are creating vehicles for different purposes. One will enable us to travel at supersonic speeds from London to New York in 3.5 hours.
That's right.
Yeah. While the other intends to allow us to step out of the office, I guess, in the city centre and commute home in a relaxed and hassle-free manner one day. Who knows? But whether it's the XB1, the Overture, or the current MK3 Airspeeder machines, all are engineered to meet functional requirements like efficiency and maneuverability. But with functional engineering, and that's resulted in beautiful shapes. But it begs the question: why does a supersonic airliner or a racing multicopter have to look good? Matt, your thoughts, please, first?
Well, I always say 100 years ago, 140 years ago, at the dawn of the motoring age, racing was the first application, and then as we went through last century, people fell in love with the car. Like the world at large, our cities were remade all around motoring, and now until 50% of our cities are taken up by cars. So it's important for us to have that, infuse these vehicles with the elements that will make people fall in love with them as well. They have to be beautiful. Luckily, when things go fast, they typically take on elegant shapes. So if it looks good, it typically flies well as well, which is lucky.
And Brian, in every aircraft design, should be aesthetically pleasing on paper. But how does that translate into the design, ultimately unlocking the power of the aircraft itself?
Well, for our aircraft, the design unlocks the power of supporting technologies to make supersonic travel safe, sustainable, and economically viable. Design thinking is incorporated into every aspect of Boom, including how we organize our teams to facilitate collaboration and innovation. The very design of Boom's buildings and hangars promotes the free flow of information and ideas. From the open concept seating arrangements to the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook our manufacturing facility. And the design engineers, they have direct access to the aircraft as it's being built. This provides a direct linkage between the digital design world and the real world of hardware.
Okay. And within that design process, how often do you explore different ideas or possible updates? Obviously we're at the stage we're in already, but how often is that case?
Aircraft development requires countless iterations to mature the design. For example, during the conceptual design phase, configuration trade studies compete head-to-head, weighing the overall benefits and merits of each candidate. And the winners, they get to move on and become part of the go-forward configuration.
Okay. And if I may, Matt, back to you, same with you, within that design process, obviously everything's evolving probably I imagine every day. But talk me through a bit about that and your updates.
Yeah, it's to focus on precision engineering, but also digital manufacturing. So being able to simulate what we want the vehicle to do, get that part manufactured really quickly, and then be out flying that within the space of a few days, or in the same way that Formula One has those constant updates. The car that starts the season is not the car that finishes the season. It's been completely remade by the end of it. And so we wanted that same sort of iterative process on every part.
Okay.
to be possible. So that's how we do it. We simulate, we use digital manufacturing techniques to make parts really fast, and then we just go fly as often as we possibly can.
Cool. So I guess that experience that I guess the engineers you have from F1, that helps within that process of understanding that. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So now, I guess climate change is arguably the single most important challenge of our times. And we all know the world requires a dramatic shift to make more sustainable practices. IWC is a sustainability pioneer in the watch industry and is taking great strides to manufacture its products responsibly, continuously reducing the impact of its business on the environment and on society. Indeed, it's with its new manufacturing center, IWC has defined the future of sustainable Swiss luxury watchmaking and built a production facility that can serve as a blueprint for sustainable manufacturing. But with, I guess, Boom Supersonic and Airspeeder, you're both working to define the future of mobility. Boom's technology will make the world dramatically more accessible, altering the way we perceive time and distance. While Airspeeder's, eVTOL technology has the potential to redefine mobility in an urban environment. But am I right in saying, though, that both concepts require radically different approaches when it comes to sustainability? And Brian, is this the case, would you say?
At Boom, we believe that travel is fundamentally a net good for humanity. And we want people to travel more often without having to worry about adverse effects to the planet. To do this, we must remove the environmental barriers to travel. So we've challenged our team to design and build an environmentally responsible supersonic aircraft. We're leaning in on technologies like sustainable aviation fuels. In fact, we're designing Overture to be carbon net zero and operate on 100% sustainable aviation fuels. Our approach to sustainability extends from how we design and test our aircraft to how we operate and maintain our manufacturing facilities. Since our founding, we've been guided by three principles: speed, safety, and sustainability. We cannot achieve our mission without delivering on all three of these principles.
Okay, nice. And Matt, driving around in flying cars through crowded cities is an age-old dream of pop culture, depicted in many movies. Yet we still find ourselves stuck in traffic. Like, feasibly, what does the future look like in this space?
Yeah, I mean, this is why we're racing. The technology is now there. We can have electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. We need a better name than that, so we call them Airspeeders. But it's here. Like, the battery technology is not quite there yet. The regulations are catching up as the vehicles are being developed. But everything is now possible. We just need that final push to go, how do we accelerate technology development and then adoption as well? How do we make people fall in love with these vehicles, want them in our cities, and change the way we get around? And I think racing has always been the first application for new mobility tools. I just don't see why flying cars will be any different.
Okay, and can I ask, when was your first, when did you first see an idea around flying cars and think, this is what I want to be, this is what I want to literally get off the ground?
Yeah, I mean, I probably consumed way too much science fiction as a kid.
Define way too much.
Yeah, no. Where is the line?
It's
like I crossed that line. But I also got to a point in my career where I thought, well, why isn't it happening? Like, it's been kind of 20 years away for. Henry Ford wanted to build flying cars. He said eventually the plane and the car will merge. I just don't know when. So it's been coming for over 100 years. It's finally here, and we also think it's the most exciting technology revolution in mobility. Let's do something really exciting and fun with it as well to showcase the technology. So yeah.
Well, you're certainly doing that. And Brian, if I may ask as well, the same. Like, when did you have this moment, this pop moment, where you thought, I want to be part of this Boom Supersonic journey?
Well, like Matt, we basically, I consume way too much science fiction as well.
You guys need to we need to have a poll and work out
We're
who's
gonna
who
geek out
consumes
over, yeah.
more. Yeah.
But travel, like I said, we've already shrunk the world to one flight. So at this point in time, what else can you do but speed up travel in order to take advantage of the world and make the most of it's a very a good thing to do to just improve humanity.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Well, thank you guys. Great. Thank you so much for being here, Brian and Matt. This has been really interesting, and I've certainly learned a lot. I'm sure everyone at home has. But this show is not over, so please stay with us as IWC has another important announcement to make. Guys, I would now like to welcome Chris Granger on stage. The CEO of IWC Schaffhausen has brought a special guest.
I have indeed. Thank you for having us. So, ladies and gentlemen, we were very lucky last year to partner with the first all-civilian orbital space flight. It was a mission called Inspiration 4. It was closely monitored by a near real-time Netflix series, that countdown mission to Inspiration 4. And of course, it was a huge charity effort for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, with all the funds raised through the mission actually benefiting that vital research and the work that St. Jude's is doing. And we were very lucky to partner with this mission and actually donate 4 specific space watches representing the 4 values of Inspiration 4 that were auctioned off in the end for great benefit of St. Jude's. And it was an all-round pleasure, and I think we came out with some really beautiful watches as well. So here to talk to us about the next step of this journey, I'm extremely honored to welcome John Cosine Slick Baum of the Polaris program. John, what a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having us and our team here. It is an absolute pleasure to work with you. And I have a small token on behalf of the commander of Inspiration 4 and the crew, and of course all of the directors on the Polaris program. This coin was flown in space, and on behalf of Jared Isaacman,
thank you so much.
Passing this on to you.
Space flown. Well, look at that. Space flown challenge coin, Inspiration 4. Thank you. I didn't have to spend all that money on auctioning one of those watches.
Well,
we save some money here.
Yeah. Well, we are grateful because that money did go to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and on behalf of the St. Jude partnership that we have with them and the team and my colleagues that I work with there, again, expressing our thanks to you and IWC for that generous donation.
No, that means a lot, and thank you again for letting us be part of it. Now, let's talk a little bit about, I want to find out your aerospace accolades and piloting accolades. That qualifies you to be part of this exciting mission. I mean, of course, if we think about the first all-civilian orbital flight mission, I think you went even like 100 miles higher than the International Space Station, is that correct?
They did, absolutely.
So what do you have to do before that to get onto that?
Well, I tell you, I'm not an astronaut, but I've been working with the team.
Huh?
And, background-wise, I'm a retired F-16 pilot. I didn't go to Top Gun. I was an Air Force guy, so I did the fighter weapons school.
Hang on a minute. Okay, this gentleman here is a fully qualified member of the Thunderbirds, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so you're an understatement of aviators.
Well, thank you.
So this is the elite aerobatic display team of the U.S. Air Force, correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, so just to get that right.
Well, thank you. So, Jared really has formed a great team. My colleague Sean Gustafson is here, and we have other folks that have flown on the Thunderbirds and fighter weapons school graduates and instructors like myself. And Jared formed a team to really try to break barriers and do what civilians have not done in space before. And that's why we've launched the first civilian space program with Polaris, starting with Polaris Dawn, but it will be a total of 3 missions that aspires and endeavors to go higher than and further than any civilian has gone before.
Absolutely. Well, that was actually the announcement. So we obviously want to say today that we are extremely pleased as IWC to be partnering with the Polaris program, a full free mission civilian spaceflight program, totally pushing the boundaries. Talk us a little bit about the 3 mission steps.
Yeah, so starting with Polaris Dawn, which will be launching no earlier than November 1st this year, the crew, 4 crew, will be going up to nearly 1,400 kilometers out in the Van Allen belts, where we haven't been through the Van Allen belts since going to the moon. So it'll be the highest actual orbit in space history. And then after they're done reaching that height, they'll descend to about 500 kilometers and be doing the first civilian EVA, or extravehicular activity. So they're doing a spacewalk.
Again, can I just translate this for the rest of our audience? This is astronauts leaving the relatively safe confines of the Dragon capsule. Is that Dragon? You're flying on Crew Dragon?
Will be.
And then venturing out into space for the very first time in a civilian mission, right?
That is correct. So a new space suit that will be worn inside and then obviously outside the capsule as well.
Yeah, which is amazing.
That's right.
Where do we go from there?
So from there, a ton of science and research. Our team is actually right now with some science and research folks where they're extrapolating data that they collected on Inspiration 4, and they're going to continue that science and research on Polaris Dawn. Every minute that the crew is in space, if they're not actively doing science and research, as Jared has said, we will not waste a second to not further things for humanity, because things that we're going to learn about humans traveling in space will eventually and ultimately help life here on Earth.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, I was wildly excited by Matt talking about flying cars. I think that from my personal perspective, that sounds a lot better than autonomous cars. I'm all in for the flying cars. Then venturing further, Boom Supersonic, and then ultimately space exploration. Just give us a little bit your sense of the significance of pushing the boundaries of exploration in modern times. Why is it so important to keep exploring space?
Well, you know, I think with the first mission, they picked the right name, Inspiration. I mean, we want to continue to push our human species to go beyond the stars and travel among the stars. And while we set extremely lofty goals, what we learn from trying to achieve those goals ultimately help us here on Earth. So combining the two, setting really lofty goals, and then just continuing to do the science and research is really the backbone of what we're doing with the Polaris program.
No, I think you touched on something very important there, and I think it's something I hear in Matt's talk, and I hear from Gary as well. I think when we have technological change, and when we have progress, and when we have changes that are to do with sustainability, I think the power to inspire and to take people on that journey by things that are either fun or cool or just plain desirable is a really important part. I think it's very difficult to excite people about things that are not beautiful and not aspirational. And I think looking at what you're doing and what Inspiration 4 did, and the same what Matt is doing with Airspeeder, it really makes that technological step into electric mobility, into flying cars, a whole lot more exciting than it sounded on paper, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, with the goal of eventually the third mission or Polaris Dawn will culminate with the third mission of Jared commanding the first crewed starship, which is, you know, the giant spaceship that eventually will take us to back to the moon and to Mars.
Yeah. So first stopover, moon.
I don't know if we'll go in that order, but eventually, obviously, NASA's teaming with them to go.
See, this is a frustrating thing for me as a CEO. So I've partnered with Matt. I still haven't been in a flying car. I've partnered with Boom. Still haven't been in a supersonic aircraft. I still haven't been to space. We've got to work on that one, right? So when are you planning to fly?
So this mission will take off no earlier than November 1st. So we are shooting for the later end of the fourth quarter of this year, and we'll be taking off from Kennedy Space Center, the historic Launch Pad 39A. They'll be in orbit for 5 days, and then returning safely.
Might need a watch for that.
I think so.
See, this is the bit that I also absolutely love about your attitude to all of this. You know, you're basically in the infancy of this program, but we're flying November 1st, including leaving the spacecraft and sort of... Okay, well, we've got a bit of time.
That's right, we have a little time.
Just in time. No, brilliant.
Well, guys, thank you so much, Chris and John. I was so inspired to follow the progress from last year, so it's really great to have you here. And this has been really impactful, a really impactful end to what's been a fascinating session. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for the first IWC Signature Talk. Please join us again tomorrow at 2 p.m. Swiss time. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.